Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 29 of our Let's Play series in Space Engineer Survival, version 1.190.1. I mentioned that in the last episode, between episodes, I was going to go and collect some ice and refill our hydrogen containers on our colonizer ship here. So I've done that. Um, I have, however, shut our engines off now at this point because I do not want to use all of that hydrogen recharging these batteries because we're about to go mine some uranium. So we'll have lots of power coming from the nuclear reactors on the ship, and if we need to refill that, we are right next to the uranium deposit, so there's really no need for us to be burning a whole bunch of hydrogen at this point. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that. We will turn on our gyros and thrusters and turn off the connector. But now we do have to turn on the hydrogen engines, otherwise we have no power at all. Now we'll go into our mining hotbar here, turn on our ore detector. We don't actually need the light or the antenna because we're going to be drilling on the outside of this asteroid here. Now, if I had the ore detector on the mobile construction module active, we would be able to see the uranium already, but it is on the surface, so we will be able to see it once we get close enough. We need to be a little bit closer than that ore detector there because that ore detector has double the range of the small grid ore detector. But I know it's over in this word direction, and I think that's it right there in front of me. But it's really hard to find to actually see the uranium on the surface of the asteroid just because of the way the shadows work. Silicon, uranium, and I think that's it. Actually, those are both relatively dark ores and look pretty similar to stone, especially if the shadows are playing tricks on you. I don't know if there's some kind of setting I can adjust in my options here to make that a little bit less troublesome, but I know it is in this direction. So with the ore detector on, we should be able to see it here eventually. So we've got a full tank of hydrogen, we've got a full battery, we've got empty cargo except for the ice that is in our O2H2 generator, which is almost full, not quite full, but almost. Can't put anything else in there, so we might as well fill up that ice. So if we do start to run low on hydrogen, we can refill it. We've also got ice in the mobile construction module. We've got a little bit of ice. Oh no, I was way off. It's over here. We've also got a little bit of ice, I think, still in the. No, we don't. We don't have ice in the refining complex, the industrial complex. We do have a healthy amount of ice still in the mobile construction module. We can actually take a look at that since the antenna's on and we're within range. Yeah, we got 21,600 kilograms of ice in the connector there, so we've got plenty of ice if we need it. But we shouldn't, because once we start getting some uranium here, we should be able to start running off of the nuclear reactors on our colonizer ship, and then we will use that power to build a nuclear reactor on the industrial complex itself. And that should have our power situation resolved for a while. Especially because this looks like it should be anyway, I don't know how deep it goes, but it should be a fairly decent sized uranium deposit. And we do have the 200% effectiveness on our refineries. Go ahead and turn on the light just so that I can see the whole thing. It's partially in shadow there. But we should be able to fit a decent amount of ore since we don't have anything else in our cargo space. We will need that silver also at some point to start building reactor components because we can't build reactor components without silver. We can't build reactors without reactor components. But we need uranium first because we have two reactors. We have two small grid, small reactors already attached to this ship based on the reactor components I salvaged from some of those salvage drones. So that'll get us started at least. And once we've done that and at least charge the batteries on the industrial complex, at that point we'll start working on getting a separate reactor going. Because I want to make sure that that reactor complex can run for a good long time, even if we're not powering it from the ship. So I do want those batteries charged. Then we'll be able to go do hunting and stuff. Because we want some silver, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do that first or if I'm going to do magnesium first, because we do also want to get some ammunition. We don't even have ammo for our personal assault rifle at this point, so we've got some Gatling gun ammo currently in the guns, but not very much. Two of them are half full, and the other two are completely empty. So, if we do have any sort of drone-related issues, we're basically in some trouble. We should be able to hold out for a little while based on what we've got in the two Gatling guns, but not very long past that. Oh, I turned off the conveyor. I need to turn the conveyor back on for the drills. Drill. And I will also go ahead and turn on the survival kit so that we can get rid of that stone, because stone taking up room in our inventory is not helpful. This is not looking very big so far. Looks like it's just a little patch on the surface and doesn't go too much deeper than that. That will be obnoxious if that's the case. So far we've only got about 1,200. I don't know what the rate is for refining uranium. I know we got 1%, and now with the effectiveness modules 2% for gold. We got 30% and now 60% for cobalt. But I don't know what the ratio is for uranium. I know we don't need a whole lot of it because we ran on, I think, like 2 ingots or something like that for a good while in the reactors that we have. But the more we get, obviously, the better off we'll be. And if this is the only deposit, though, as long as it took us to find this one, I am not excited about hunting for another one. Although it says 7 meters there, so we are definitely not 7 meters away from what we're drilling at right now, so hopefully that means that there's a decent amount of this. Hopefully. What do we got now? We still haven't even filled up the cockpit. Alright, so that's still saying 4 meters even though we're right in front of it. So hopefully that means that, there's something deeper in here. We're definitely getting a decent amount of stone, but we are starting to pick up some more uranium. The gold deposit was also very thin. Like, it had a pretty big surface area, but it was basically like a pancake. I mean, that is the shape with a lot of these deposits, and at least it was on the planet. If you remember the silver deposit that we found with the rover, it was relatively thin, but seemed to extend pretty far out in terms of diameter. That is a lot of stone. we're getting a lot of stone. I wonder if that distance that it's giving me is the distance from the actual ore detector rather than the distance from where I am. No, I don't think it is, because if I were to get out, oh, I turned the antenna off. If I were to turn the antenna on and get out, why is that not broadcasting? Oh, it's colonizer ore detector. That's why I'm not finding it. Colonizer ore detector. Broadcast using antenna. Antenna range. No, that's probably why, because the antenna range is turned down so low. Why am I not seeing the uranium? Please don't tell me the uranium's gone already. This still looks like uranium here. Alright, 1.54K. Or, yeah, I'm definitely still getting uranium. I don't know why it's not showing up anymore. That's weird. I've heard stories about the ore detectors being buggy. I'm going to try turning this one on. Yeah, it's still not showing. That disturbs me somewhat. I hope there's enough here to at least fill up our ship. We're definitely still getting uranium. We're definitely still getting stone too, though. Well, depending on how our refining ratio is, and it's definitely a good thing we got those yield modules, depending on how our ratio is, we're definitely going to want to start scouting for another uranium source. Because this does not seem like it's going to last us very long. Especially since that signal's already gone. Like, that's weird to me, because I'm clearly still getting uranium. This is definitely not the most impressive ore vein I've ever come across, though. So I've been having thoughts about a few things in terms of, videos I'd like to make and stuff I'd like to do both in this series and kind of moving forward with the development of the channel. I'd like to get into modding. I know I said that I'm, playing vanilla here, but I expressed the openness of doing at least a mod to deal with all the gravel that we've got in the previous episode. I've been looking into the concrete mod, so that's something I'm considering. I probably wouldn't just use the one that I found on the Steam Workshop as is, though I might want to make some edits to it, because what I've actually been thinking about is something that lets you use concrete on large grids, and also lets you use like carbon fiber or something like that on small grids. Because I mean, we've got a small grid ship here, and I specifically said also in a previous episode that a lot of the reason why I don't put armor blocks on it and kind of make it look a little bit prettier is because that to me is just weight. Even with light armor blocks, it's weight. Um, I don't know exactly how much weight a light armor block actually adds to this, but if you could make an even lighter block that uses like silicon and a little bit of gravel, um, to make like carbon fiber, which is something similar to what they've got in Imperium Galactic. They've got the ability to do carbon fiber. Um, I know a lot of people compare those games, but I mean it's kind of hard not to really. Uh, I think that might be something cool to do. So then we could use concrete, to build stations and stuff, since they're not supposed to move and you don't have to worry about mass. But use carbon fiber for some of our more lightly armored utility ships, so that we can make them look nice without, adding a whole bunch of weight to them. So that's just a thought that I had. If you have any particular thoughts on that, please feel free to share them. But yeah, I would probably do, something like that as far as kind of making my own mod. Um, certainly building on the work that others have done and kind of standing on the shoulders of giants there. Um, I wouldn't want to take credit and say this is all my idea, because I'd honestly probably just hijack a lot of their textures and models and stuff. Because I'm cool with coding. I like coding. Doing modeling and generating textures and stuff is not really my strong suit. But anyway, that's a thought that I had. I've also thought about, and this would be a little bit more complicated because I know it does actually involve scripting. From what I've been able to see, the concrete mod doesn't actually involve any scripting. It's just kind of setting up the XML properties for the blocks and the components, and and then loading in the models and textures and everything for it, based on that XML definition. Um, so there's no real scripting involved there. But something else that I thought about doing was trying to do a modded ore detector. With all the issues that we've been having with ore detector range and trying to find freaking uranium, I thought it might be cool to try to build like a prospecting drone, with an automated ore detector on it. Now the ore detectors in game in vanilla, are not really scriptable, because the way that they work is they add the markers to the HUD, and there's no handles, at least not in the API that I've seen, for kind of capturing that and doing anything useful with it. So what I've thought about is trying to make a modded ore detector that would be able to scan and save GPS markers, or at the very least, output the coordinates, um, of any discovered ore deposits. And it looks like that uranium is straight up gone now. Like that's it. We might have to, because I mean that was sitting right here plain as day when we pulled up to this asteroid. So we might have to hook up the mobile construction module again and fly around this asteroid a little bit. Might even just try flying the colonizer around it a little bit just to see if we can find anything else exposed, because we didn't really explore this asteroid. I, found what I found and I was like, okay, cool, we're done. But there could very easily be more uranium exposed on this asteroid that we just haven't, looked around enough to find yet. So that's also something that we'll want to do. But we've got a not worthless amount of uranium here. We've got what is that? About 6,000 kilograms of ore, which is not a lot. We'll see what that refines down to. But we've got some that should at least get our nuclear reactors running and get us to the point where we're able to charge up this battery. Ice is definitely a lot easier to come by, and you know, if I only had 6,000 kilograms of ice, I would not be satisfied and would actually be somewhat worried and definitely in the mentality of, okay, time to go get more ice. Speaking of ice, we are down to 69% in our hydrogen tanks, so I'm going to turn on those O2H2 generators and start using some of the ice that we have stored up in there to start refilling that as we head back over to our refinery. And yeah, we're only seeing that silver now. I'm going to go ahead and turn the ore detector back off here because that is using up power. That's the one on the MCM, the mobile construction module. And then we'll turn off the mining equipment on the colonizer. Get into our docking tools here and take a look through the camera. We'll make sure I'm high enough. I know the connector's still off. I am not unconcerned about the amount of force that is being applied. Despite how low I've got the connector strength turned down here, it always feels like it's bumping and sparking, and I don't like that. So I'm just going to let it come to rest here, and then I will turn on the connector and kind of let it adjust. It's not adjusting, it is just drifting. Alright, well, it says it's ready to connect anyway, so I'll go ahead and connect. But I'm going to do that from this screen because as soon as we connect, I want to turn off the hydrogen engines because I do not want to be burning our hydrogen to charge the battery on the complex here. And it looks like we're out of ice. Nope, not quite, almost. Go ahead and let that run down. But in the meantime, I'm going to pull out 100 kilograms of ore. And I'm going to put precisely 100 kilograms of ore. I'm actually going to pull this cobalt here out. Put exactly 100 kilograms of ore into refinery 2 and turn refinery 2 on. Alright, so it is pulling that straight in, but it's okay because the reactor is turned off. So since the reactor is off, it will not actually be using any of that uranium. So we'll be able to figure out how much we got and count it up. Still not quite out of ice. Almost. Very close. Alright, ice is gone. So we will turn off the generators. How did that do? Only at 90%, so we do need to go pull some more ice so we can refill our hydrogen all the way. And that goes pretty slow. Alright, so we've got... Oh, stop moving. One and a half, maybe? One 1.8. So it sounds like we get about a 0.9% yield by default, and then that doubles with our effectiveness modules. Let's go ahead and move this. Alright, so that's 1.25, and that is 0.75. So that is actually an even 2. So it's pretty much the same yield as gold. Alright. I suppose that's not awful. In any case, we can fit all of this in the cargo container. Now this is going to use more power to actually run both refineries, but it'll refine it faster. The downside being it'll immediately go into that cobalt, and I don't actually want to do that yet. Alright, so that is refining now. Our battery here is going to be fully depleted in 52 minutes because we're using 1.14 megawatts and not putting anything in. But we can fix that relatively easily now that we have uranium by turning our reactors on. That's still not going to be enough actually though to charge it, because that's only good for 1 megawatt. Those are 500 megawatts each, just like the hydrogen engines. They take up less room and use fuel more slowly. But now we've got 7 hours, so there's that. If I were to go ahead and turn on the hydrogen engines as well, though, how would those divide the labor? So those are not doing their full output, and neither are those. Okay, that's kind of annoying. It would be nice if you could prioritize that. I'm just going to go ahead and turn these off for now. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start the assembler. This is going to really start chewing through power. We've got 7 hours though, and we are charging some. So I'm going to go ahead and start up the production of the components we need for a large grid small reactor. Oh, I need silver first. So well, I need silver for the reactor components. I can do the rest of it. I've already got 9 reactor components. So if I do that, it needs 100, so I actually need 91. And we want to move all of this stuff. I'm going to jam this into the front of the line. It did not actually show me everything. I'm going to take this stone and jam it into the front of the line on one of these refineries, just so we can get that out of there. I'm going to put it on this one so that it's not going to make much difference in terms of letting it catch up, but that was kind of the idea. And then I want to pull the rest of the stuff that we actually got from refining stone when we were digging and put that somewhere else. Still got a little bit of time left, so I will go over and start looking into getting the silver deposit. Left that stuff on, that doesn't help. Although as soon as I disconnect, I'm not going to have the reactors helping anymore with the power situation. Alright, I'm going to keep the reactors connected while we're doing the assembler. The assembler's running. And it's done. Okay. How are we doing on the refining? Making progress, but it's slow going. What is our reactor situation? That is nowhere near full. But that's going to last us a good while. Like, it's still going up. As slow as the uranium refines and it filters in here, it's still going up even though we're burning it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is to cut down on power consumption. I'm going to move all the uranium into one refinery. I will turn off the assembler. I will turn off the unused refinery. And then we'll go ahead and get out of the camera. Disconnect. And go get some silver. Hopefully that silver deposit will be a little bit more impressive. So now we're running on nuclear, we're not running on hydrogen. We don't have any ice, so we can't refill. We do have a decent amount of hydrogen, and we could run off of either. But at this point, I am content that we've got a decent number of ingots. I mean, we're nowhere near full, but we're nowhere near done refining the ore that we got in terms of, putting ingots into the reactor. So I'm going to run on nuclear for a little bit. Get our ore detector turned back on and our light. There it is. And there it is. I can actually see it. Visual confirmation. Like I said, I hope this is more impressive than the uranium deposit was. That was not a whole lot of ore. We'll see how long it actually ends up lasting us. It could last us a while. I could be, misjudging how much uranium it really takes to run a railroad. But that was not a lot. I do not have a lot of experience with nuclear in this game yet. In fact, since I started playing again, after the survival update came out after we got out of early release, because I had played before, but it's been a long time. Like, there weren't even planets when I was playing the game before. That's how early access I was. Uh, that's the last time I used nuclear since the game got into full release, and I started playing again. I have not actually used any nuclear power until I did this playthrough. I think it's already proven itself deeper. Right, cockpit's full. Connector is almost full. I mean, this is definitely a richer deposit. By the time we'd filled up the cockpit and the connector, I was already starting to worry that it was gone. And we haven't pulled up any stone at all yet. And given the shape of our ship, I do want to go wide rather than trying to go deep. Because if we don't go wide, we won't be able to fit the ship in deep. Alright, cargo container is now full. Now we're just filling up the drill. So 1% yield on uranium is the default, as well as for gold. Because we got 2 ingots out of 100 ore, and that is with a 200% rate because of the effectiveness modules, the yield modules. They're called yield modules, but they're listed on the refinery's info page of it as effectiveness. Go figure. Welcome to Space Engineers. But I've been enjoying reading about mods and modding. It seems to me that if you really wanted to go deep on it, you could make some pretty elaborate stuff in terms of requiring things as prerequisites and doing quite a little tree of. Well, I don't know actually. I don't know if you can do a tree because everything that I've seen shows that you're assembling ingots into components, and then components obviously are welded into blocks. I have not seen anything where you use components to make new components. I think that would be a cool thing to be able to do and would kind of add a lot of depth to the assembly tree. I think we're probably full now. Yeah, we're full now. All right, back to the refinery complex. Industrial complex, I guess, really, because the assembler's on there and it's not just refining. So once we get this silver on board, um, we are definitely starting to run long now. I try to shoot for 30 minutes. We're at probably about 40 now because I forgot to start the clock immediately, but got to start pretty soon after. So I'm, maybe 5 or 10 minutes off from the 35 I'm showing on my stopwatch right now. Uh, but I will get this started anyway, and we'll at least run the experiment for determining the silver yield, and then I will cut the episode off at that point. In between episodes, I am going to scout around this asteroid a little bit and see if I can find another uranium deposit, and probably do another. Well, no, I don't need to do an ice run. I've got a bunch of ice on the mobile construction module, so I'm not going to do an ice run. I will just do some scouting to see if we've got more uranium here. If we do not, then in fairly short order here, this won't be next episode, it'll probably be another episode or two afterwards, we will start at least working on a drone that I can fly around to do scouting. I think, maybe. I don't know. I don't know, because the thing is, if you use a drone to go scouting, you have to have your antennas on, and if your antennas are on, then pirates can see them just as easily as you can, and that tends to get them shot at. And I mean, something else that I'm planning to do soon here anyway is to go get some magnesium so that we can make ammunition and tool up. At the very least, we might start doing some of the sort of precursor work that I want to do for the idea of an exploration drone, because I would like to see if I can get a combination of cameras and sensor blocks to do some of the scouting for me automatically. I'm not sure if that's possible. One thing, although I know I can do and would like to do, is set up a kind of autopilot for the colonizer. Put a remote control block on it and have it automatically do the flying back and forth between where I am and at least the ice asteroid, so that I don't have to sit and watch it. It'll just kind of do it. Um, I will plan to still actually sit in it and control it semi-manually, but at least for the long distance leg of the journey, it will do that automatically. So I think either that or actually, yeah, I'm going to do that next because if we do that quick enough, we can have it fly itself to a magnesium deposit. And I think this is because of the merge block that it's having trouble moving. It kind of gets stuck. And I haven't really been using the merge block. I haven't really been moving the mobile construction module around. So I think I might take the merge block off because I don't know how helpful it really is. Anyway, now we're locked. We're providing power again to the refinery complex. We've got all this silver in here. Pull out 100. Go down to our refineries. Oh, it just threw all that in there, didn't it? Oh, because it was in the... Yeah, it threw all of that in there because it was in the words. We've still got the uranium working, so that's not done yet. We haven't even gone through a third of everything we picked up. We've got 20 ingots, 22 ingots, plus what we still got in the reactor. All right, I'm somewhat comfortable with the amount of uranium that we have now. I'm less worried, but still need to find it because I don't yet. This will nowhere near fill up our reactor. I would like to be able to fill up the reactor just because then I know that I've got a decent amount and I don't have to worry about it. Um, so I'm still gonna scout out some more uranium between episodes, but I want to pull all of this extra silver here out. I don't have anywhere to put it. Alright. Well, I know I have somewhere to put it because I got it here somehow. So I'll turn the drill conveyor off and I will pull this out of the refinery and put it back in the drill. Okay. So 100 ore in refinery 1. That's quick. I mean, compared to uranium, that's quick. Yield is definitely better. Not cobalt better, but better. Okay, 10%. Silver is 10% because we have 20 and we have 200%, so it's 10% by default. Good to know. Now, if we stick this into the assembler, the assembler is turned off. We want to turn it back on. It will start work on the reactor components. And I will turn the conveyors back on the drill. So that will pull in the silver that was sitting in the drill into the refinery. So we can get the rest of this going. Alright, well that's it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe so you can see what happens next. Like I said, I'm going to do some scouting between episodes and we will either build the reactor or scout for magnesium or possibly both and do some autopilot stuff in the next episode. So likes, comments, verbal abuse. Thanks for watching. See you next time.